Welcome to H360 Health Talk. My name is Dave Duplay, and joining me this afternoon is a very exciting guest. His name is Mark Dillon. He is the founder and president of Biomed Sciences. Okay, so let's take them one at a time. So wound care, scar management, skin renewal, are those all kind of in the same category, or do you have different types of Cylon for different types of application?
We have different types of Cylon for different types of applications. Wound care is the initial phase, and there are several varieties of wounds and stages of wound healing. This product, for example, is used on a partial thickness wound. So if it's like a second-degree burn where it's just the upper layer of the skin is damaged, we would use this product. But if it's a deeper, more serious burn injury where the dermal layer of the skin is damaged, then a skin grafting type of process is required in order to replace that dermal layer. So we then branched into several other areas of wound care. This is a product that we manufacture. It's called Cylon Dual Dress, and it's used as a bolster dressing over graft sites. So this is applied over top of the skin graft and fixed in place to protect the skin graft and to keep it in close contact with the wound bed until the graft takes and it can be removed. And so some of these products are used in like an operating room environment.
Sure. And
some of them are used more of in a consumer type of environment. But there's different facets to wound care.
So when you say consumer type environment, could I go to my local pharmacy and find this on the shelf?
Not that particular product, but let's talk about scar management for a moment. So this is related to wound care. So we're talking about an open wound. It can get infected. It has to heal. That healing process depends on the nature of the wound and what other circumstances there are around that. But once that wound first heals and closes, now we go into a different phase, more of a rehabilitation process where we're treating the scars. And with treating scars, there's a couple of different facets to this. One is the obvious one, cosmesis, what's it going to look like?
Yeah.
Right. But when we talk about burn injuries and what I call the professional market, it's much more about functionality. It's about restoring range of motion, elasticity, restoring the function of that area, because burn wounds are wide surface area wounds. They tend to be very large, or they can be very large, versus like an incision, which is a narrow wound. It doesn't typically affect range of motion very much. So, so we differentiate between the professional market and the more cosmetic type of market. In the cosmetic market, we're dealing, there's also a subsegment of that, which is professional, which would be cosmetic surgery, plastic surgery, tummy tucks, even C-sections, things of this type, where we're treating scars mostly for cosmesis. But those types of products are available over the counter. If you go into CVS or Rite Aid or Walgreens, it's marketed as Scar Away. And we work with a partner that brings that product, that technology, into the retail market, while we focus under our own brands in the professional market.
You know, we've had a lot of breast cancer patients, survivors, not only on our show, but that I've talked to over the years. And many of these women, and quite frankly, men, men are susceptible to breast cancer as well, who have had a mastectomy or a lumpectomy, need the healing. And, a lot of them say, well, even when I'm healed, if I'm in the gym and I'm working out, I can still feel stretch, right? I can still feel a pull on the skin, maybe where the sutures have been. So would some of your products be used in certain circumstances like that to help, not only the cosmetic part of it, right? But also, how the skin heals, making sure it's the elasticity of the skin is, to its most natural form, because areas, especially your arm. I mean, we use our arms every day. So whether we're reaching for something or we're practicing yoga, whatever it is, there's pull and tension. So,
right. And that's precisely what we developed this product for. This is called Oliva, and it's the Cylon material
yeah.
bonded to a fabric backing, and this is just applied over the surface of the scar. So now we're talking post-wound care, and what this does is it increases the hydration level of the skin tissue. So the skin it's like a hyper moisturizer. The skin just naturally becomes softer by wearing the product. And that softening process in turn accelerates the collagen remodeling phase of scar formation. And this will reduce the appearance of a scar or can prevent it from forming in the first place. But it's working through hydration. There's not an active ingredient. There's no medicine. There's nothing, no active ingredient in the material. So because of that, it's essentially reusable to a certain extent. So you would wear this every day, take it off, wash it with soap and water, reapply the same piece, and keep wearing it for a period of a few weeks until eventually it loses its adhesiveness and you discard it and replace it with a new one. So
interesting. But so how does it moisturize that area? If there's no properties in the material itself, is it containing the natural moisture of the skin and keeping it isolated in this particular area where this is, on the skin? Is that how it works?
That's part of it. The other part of it is that silicone oil in particular is a very lubricious type of material. It's often used in cosmetics and shampoo and things of this type. But if you've ever noticed when you wax your car and it rains, you see water beating on the surface. It's because silicone is inherently very hydrophobic. And in fact, even if you wear this product and then go into the shower, you'll notice that part of your skin, the water will bead off of it until you hit it with a little bit of soap and it just rinses away that surface effect. So it's that effect contributes to the moisturization of the upper skin level, and that in turn improves scarring. So it's really the silicone that's doing it. This silicone Teflon mixture is allowing us to engineer a greater variety of silicone sheeting that can be used in a variety of different ways, like the face masks that we use for facial burn injuries, or even textile garments that are where the product is stitched inside of a compression garment and the patient wears that. So we have this family of scar management products that are all based on the Cylon technology, but it's engineered into different formulations depending on what the specific requirements are.
So let's talk about burn for a minute, because I think when you hear the word burn, and I think most people would think of fire. And I know there's chemical burn, there's other types of burn. So are your products used in the full range of burns, and do you see some type of burns more significant than others?
You're exactly right, David. There are a wide variety of types of burn injuries. The most common that people think of is a flame burn, but also scald burns, steam burns, even abrasions aren't necessarily related to temperature, but they function a lot like a burn injury does. Chemical burns, acid burns, anything that damages the skin. And there are two main components to the skin, the outer layer being the epidermis and the bottom layer being the dermis. And depending on the depth of that injury, it's much the same, whether it's either chemical or flame or scald injury. Now, where you get into a little bit of a difference is electrical burns, because electricity will damage tissue much in the same way, but it doesn't necessarily travel across the surface. So you could burn the muscle tissue in your arm.
So that type of burn goes deeper,
that
quicker?
goes deep. And it's virtually untreatable because you kill the tissue deep within the body. And if it's not fatal right on the spot, it typically leads to amputation or something, because you're not just treating the skin.
Yeah. Now, Mark, I want to talk about some other products here that you brought with you. So let's take this one we have here first. what is this? We talked a little about compression garments. Can you share with me what this would be used for? I'm not even exactly sure what it is. It looks like a shirt of some type.
Yep, it's a garment. It's a jacket, and it has a material which we call Cylon Tex stitched into it. So this is the Cylon material here.
Now it feels much different than what I'm feeling here.
It's formulated to be totally different. In this case, one of the requirements is you need to be able to don the jacket and you need to be able to slide your arm into it. So if it was sticky, that would be counterproductive. So in this case, we make it non-adhesive, still the same Cylon material, slightly different formulation, but still doing the same thing. It's putting silicone in contact with the scar surface. But in this case, it's being used in a compression garment, and compression garments have been used in treating scar injuries for many years because compression reduces scarring, but it does it through a different mechanism of action. When you press on your skin, you notice that it blanches. That's because you're closing off the microvasculature at the surface of the skin. That reduces blood flow temporarily right to that spot, and as soon as you let go, it turns natural color again. Well, compression helps reduce the collagen production and scarring. So this type of technology has been used for many decades now for controlling scars. What we introduced was a version of our Cylon material that could be incorporated directly into the garment.
Now, Mark, I've seen and I've talked to several significant burn patients, and the burn is one thing, but the healing process, right? And what they have to go through with their care team to remove some of the dead skin and keep the skin growing. I'm assuming this is a lot of where your products come into play.
Exactly. Both in the acute phase, when it's in the operating room, and you're right, they're debriding away dead skin because this wound is not going to heal if it's got necrotic tissue that's going to essentially rot on the surface. Right. So you have to clean the wound first. It's agonizing.
It's painful for the patient.
It's terrible. And but that's step one, is you have to get to a clean wound, healthy wound bed. And then step number two, depending on how deep the burn injury, you then choose an approach to best care for that wound site. And that may involve taking a skin graft from another part of the body. It may involve biosynthetic skin substitutes. It might involve temporary skin replacements, allografts, either cadaver tissue or pig skin, just to close the surface. Because when you have these really large area injuries that are 70, 80, 90% body area, you don't have enough intact skin to take.
I am an organ donor. My family's, everybody in my family, we're all organ donors. We think it's so important.
It is.
And I know when we were filling out the forms for Donate Life that I think they separate. When people say, well, I'm an organ donor, people naturally think heart, lungs, kidney, liver, right, those organs. But skin, eyes, it's just so important to make sure you check all the boxes when you decide to make the decision, either yourself or as a family, to be an organ donor, to make sure that you're going down the list and checking it all off. Because I have been in some burn centers and I have seen these patients, and it's so important.
The complicating factor with skin versus other organs is that it's not a permanent replacement. It will be rejected. It's going to come off eventually in a period of weeks. Whereas if you have a heart transplant or you receive a kidney or something, you'll be put on anti-rejection drugs for the rest of your life. But when it comes to skin, it's a stopgap, just to cover those couple of weeks to stabilize the patient, look at other alternatives. There's a variety of different approaches, and different surgeons have their own preferences and how they want to do it. The other complicating factor with human tissue is disease transmission potential. So it's not always the most preferred method. Pig skin, for example, doesn't work quite as well, and it's rejected pretty quickly within a matter of a couple of weeks. But it's a lot easier to screen farm animals for disease control than it is human beings that are,
Yeah,
have their own personal medical histories.
sure.
So it's a complicated situation, and there's been a lot of advances made over the 3 decades that I've been in the field, and there's some very exciting technologies that are on the horizon. But we're never going to eliminate the first thing is if you can take the skin from the patient themselves
That's
without creating too much more damage.
Yeah.
That's always going to be the best choice.
Yeah. Mark, thank you so much for joining me here today. The work that you're doing is incredible. I admire your company. I admire you. So thank you again for joining me. And I'd like to thank you for tuning in.